Okay. So, I talked about this before in my 6 rules video, but I think it needs to be talked about a little bit more in detail because I think this is like the biggest thing I see that it's a big thing that counter apologists do that is a very big example of fallacious reasoning, but it convinces people. And this argument generally consists of pointing out the sins of a Bible character. Just reading a disturbing Bible story where the protagonist did something bad, and then they try to use that to argue against Scripture. This does not work. And I'll tell you why. It's because all humans are sinners. All humans have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. This is a message that is told to us countless times throughout the Old and New Testament, and the characters you read about in the Bible are no exception. So, the most common stories they'll bring up is the story of Jephthah. He was one of the judges. And they'll bring up the story where he makes a promise to make an offering to God. Um, he said he would offer up the first living thing he saw on his way back home, and then the first living thing he saw on his way back home was his own daughter, so he killed his own daughter. Uh, and they bring up this story and they try to say, hey, look, the Bible condones human sacrifice. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. It said a guy made a brash vow and did something that God probably didn't want him to do. The other story that they bring up very often is Judah and Tamar. This is a story where, um, this is a story where Tamar disguises herself as a prostitute to try and bear children, and then the counter apologists, when they bring up the story, they're obviously like, "Hey, look, the Bible condones prostitution. Are you okay with this?" And the thing is, no, it doesn't condone that behavior. It's telling us these things happened. And so I think a big thing for the counter apologist community to do if they want to make actually good arguments is every time they bring up a Bible story where a character does a bad thing, they need to actively show in the text where God says he condones the behavior. That's what they need to do. They can't just bring up a story where someone did a disturbing thing, because history is full of disturbing things. I mean, by this logic, we have to give up democracy because some of the founding fathers owned slaves. We can all agree slavery is bad, but by that logic, by the counter apologist logic, we need to forsake democracy because some of the first Democrats were slave owners. That's basically the level of intelligence we're working with here. And I don't know if it is just general ignorance or if sometimes it is actively malicious. I would not be surprised if some of it is active malicious and they just want to purposefully lie about these stories because they know they can get away with it. Basically, if a counter apologist comes to you with this and they say Bible character X did Y, I want you to look them in the face and ask them to show you where God condones this behavior. Because the only character's actions who matter, if we're gonna talk about the morality of the Bible, the only character whose actions matter is God. And by extension, that means Father, Son, and Spirit, yes. The only character's actions that matter here when we're talking about uh, the morality of the Scripture is God Himself. That's the only relevant conversation to this. That's my stance on this issue. And I just want to see this stop Because you can have some, I have heard arguments from counter apologists that, you know, sometimes I don't know the exact answer to them. Sometimes I think this is an issue that I need to think a lot about, come back to you with a good answer. But with how common the issue of Bible character X did Y comes up, I don't know why they keep doing it, because it is a fallacy. And yes, I can fairly say that that is a fallacy because, well, okay, I just gave an example earlier. I don't want to repeat myself too much in this video. All I say is just, I don't know, have a fruitful conversation. Don't play games, right? Don't play these little, ooh, did you know this guy did this thing? Don't play your little games like that. Just come with an, I mean, honestly, just come with a good argument. Come at us with good arguments, man. We don't need this silly stuff.